approach her. Yes, one Christmas Eve, casually I was walking down the street. One Christmas Eve, casually I was walking down the street. I was attracted by the voice of a little boy as he held his mother's hands, telling her his plans. What do you think the conversation could be? He said, listen mama, I want you to tell Santa Claus to bring a trumpet and a concertina for me. I am lonely, cause there's no children nearby me. Ma, you don't know how happy your son will be. She looked at him very sad as the water filled her eyes, to realize that she hadn't the answer for his price. She was so worried, yes, so worried and so confused. As they strolled along the street, no shoes on his feet, while they walked, he continued to repeat, as he pleaded, listen mama, I want you to tell Santa Claus to bring a trumpet and a concertina for me. I am lonely, cause there's no children nearby me. Ma, you don't know how happy your son will be. I approached her and promised to give a helping hand. She said to me, Mr. Knapp, you can do the best you can. I gave her money and asked her, miss, where you live. That night at 12 o'clock, I brought a lovely box. The next day, she was so merry and gay. When she heard, listen mama, I want you to thank Santa Claus for the concertina and the trumpet he brought for me. I'm so happy, I have no time to take some tea. Oh, what a nice Godfather he is to me.
Signores, I must tell you about a little trick that Senior Santa Claus has played on me. Okay, maybe I was being too greedy to ask him for a big present. But my goodness, look at what Senior Santa Claus has given to me. See? The hat I got for Christmas is too big. It is nice, but my sombrero is too big. If you wonder why I shiver, I fell 3 times in the river, cause the hat I got for Christmas is too big. But ring the bells and beat the drum. Ring the bells and beat the drum. I'll ring the bells to be polite. But if I see that Santa Claus, I'm gonna start a fight. See, the hat I got for Christmas is too big. It is nice, but my sombrero is too big. Can't tell one thing from another. I got married to my brother, cause the hat I got for Christmas is too big. But ring the bells and beat the drum. Ring the bells and beat the drum. I'll ring the bells, but I feel sick, cause Mr. Santa Claus, you played on me your dirty trick. Claus. The hat I got for Christmas is too big. It is nice, but my sombrero is too big. When I walk on Frederick Street, you can only see my teeth. Cause the hat I got for Christmas is too big.
This is Scrunter, and you are listening to DJ Anna and Ultra Simo.
Hey.
Welcome to the Glam Parang Jam Ultra Simo DJ Anna. Merry Christmas, everybody.
I see her and I want her. I got to have her. Hey.
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry on this Christmas night, yes. The corridor transformation, duty calls, and of course, one must respond. In spite, of course, of the festivity, and in the midst of the festivities, the eats and, of course, the delicacies, a rarity, of course, that only comes once a year around this time and on this day. But we have a work and a job to do. We have a commitment and a dedication. And after all the festivities, and after all of the eats, and after all of the drinks, and after all of the merriment, and after, of course, all the toys would have been distributed, and the kids begin, of course, to destroy them, because you have to get industry going one, and, of course, you have to get something different next year. So therefore, of course, industry must, of course, move merrily on. But the reality is that after all of that, the new year will come. And of course, the year not yet finished. And the record-breaking amount of murders are indelibly implanted in every citizen's mind. I want to say at the same time, of course, I wish all of you all the best, but the children in particular, today is a special day for them. And those of you who are using at this point, and of course, during the old years into the new years, be careful, please, with those, of course, what I consider to be inflammable items. Yes, very important that we live to see, and that, of course, we are not destroyed by that which we love. I'm talking about fireworks, and of course, and all of the other, what I consider to be flammable items that goes with the noise and the festivity, and of course, the turning of the new year. But in the meantime, let's hear Scrunter.
We don't match in a kitchen. People in behind the sun. So I went across to see what's really going on. He say I went for pizza pop just by Wellington. You know when I come back home, the damn woman gone. So I ask him, Leroy, where your mother gone? Answer me, where your mother gone? She ain't wash the well, she ain't clean upstairs. Your mother ain't put no over behind work. Little boy, where you move my girl? Answer me, where your mother gone? She leave the gate right in the open. Your mother leave the pastors open. Hey Leroy, where you move my gun?
We say Merry Christmas to everybody. Big love to everybody all around the world. Checking out the Glam Parang Jam. DJ Anna Ultra Simo. Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Hey.
Corporate Secretary of Fishermen and Friends of the Sea. I also own a private company which I built from scratch. 30 years ago we started, and today it's a prominent contributor in many areas of national development. I'm not blowing any horns, but we all have a place here. Now, the UNC has gone down a road where its main spokesperson is spreading hate and wants to expel and close down all of the 1%. Now, this person never made any success of any business whatsoever. And with great respect to Kamala, I'm wondering, why would she want the UNC to hate and expel businesses? So Extra Foods should be shut down, Starlight Drugs, Starbucks, Vemco, Mario's, Prasad's the Food King. There's plenty people who are millionaires in Trinidad. And we have a place here, and we have a contribution to make. Now, if Kamala wants to divide the Africans and the Indians and spread hate amongst them and divide them even further than the demons that already have, then maybe she should be part of the labas and the dustbin and a cesspit. But don't take all the good people in the UNC and drag them down a road where they want to hate each other. Successful businesses have a contribution to make. We are citizens, we are patriots. I have no shame in my success. I have worked 12 hours a day for 40 flicking years. When other people were going to the beach and hanging out, I always think of a way to make it work.
Let us pause here for a moment, as we, of course, will of necessity have to, of course, bring to conclusion that clearly outrage, or is it an outrage at all? And is it, of course, a question of self-righteous indignation? Or is it a case of an attempt to use the UNC and Kamala Persad-Bissessar to project an agenda that is, of course, personal to Gary Aboud, the man that calls himself, of course, the head of fishermen and others of the sea and friend of the sea? Is it a true statement? Or is it that, just as Helen Drayton, the independent senator, in 2015, when she called for Kamala Persad-Bissessar to call the elections because she was taken up with the propaganda that we know now that is Rowley and the PNM, having regard, of course, to the so-called emails that, of course, at the time, unfortunately and maliciously, and of course, not erroneously, I can't say it's an error, but deliberately attempted to undermine and, of course, cause a government to fall. That is treason. But Helen Drayton, as an independent senator, called for, of course, early elections. I ain't finished there yet. I ain't finished. Is it that it is another case of Father Harvey, who, of course, went around the parliament when it was on Wrightson Road and, of course, exercised his biblical or his ecclesiastic power and called for, of course, exorcism to cleanse the parliament, targeting, of course, Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC? Or is it another case of the Calypsonians And I identify, of course, Crow in particular. And there's a reason for it. I'm coming there. I will regurgitate in a while. Is it another case where, of course, the UNC has been persecuted by the Calypsonians that claim somehow that the PNM has a status, an unassailable position of political and power dominance in Trinidad and Tobago? Isn't that? Or is it Justice Ventor, when, of course, the Integrity Commission said in no uncertain terms by a majority vote clearly that those emails were bogus, using my words, of course, but that is what I interpret it to be, bogus, because it is not far-fetched to use that terminology now that we know, after the passage of time, 3 years, before we get to find out that those emails were a concoction of Rowley's pernicious, evil, wicked, diabolical imagination. We are experiencing, people, a situation where the spirit of evil has now unleashed and has been unleashed on the population to protect that which we know, whether carnal, spiritual, or otherwise, is not good for Trinidad and Tobago. It is toxic. It is poisonous. The toxicity has no limits when we hear people like, of course, this fellow called Gary Aboud. So, in other words, I'm saying it's not for the first time. So, Justice Ventor, not satisfied with the consensus that was reached by the Integrity Commission, of which he was a part, and of course was the vice chairman at that point in time, a former judge, Justice Ventor, he came out of the commission, resigned from the commission, because he understood the legal consequences of being in the commission and, of course, expressing the most phantasmagorical, the most inexplicable, and the most far-fetched explanation that any judge could give. I'm sure that reaching to the Privy Council, they will easily, like, of course, what they did recently, say, I don't want to hear all you. This conclusion by this judge is asinine and stupid and foolish, and therefore shouldn't even merit a discussion on the matter. So he came out and he said that, listen, you will talk about the contents, but not the emails and whether or not they are legitimate or not. Let's go to the lines, and when we go, of course, we will continue. A pleasant good night and all the best for the Christmas one time. Good night.
Same to you from the Silver Fox and family.
Yes, man.
I want Trinidad and Tobago, especially Trinidadians, I want all to keep focus. Evil is in your mind. Don't let evil come into your mind. Stay focused. God is with you. God will never give all you up.
This thing.
Right? Let me tell you something. All of us say things like Father Harvey and all kind of things. When a certain girl having she parties, I used to play the music.
Mr. Silverbox, just hold
Yes.
on. You may have to start all over, because I am seeing that we are not on air as far as the mic is concerned, because you're talking to the mic. Let me just adjust something here. Testing one. Oh. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Yeah. No, I miscalculated something. So everybody was saying all the time. It's just that it wasn't on my monitoring screen, so I thought it was something else. So go ahead, my friend. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
All right.
Yes.
All you're speaking about Father Harvey and Father Harvey and Father Harvey.
Yes.
I used to be playing music for a certain girl for she party. I don't want to call her name, right? I don't want to bring her name.
Yes.
And Father Harvey, this is no allege.
Right.
Father Harvey used to come by the house, drink the rum, not naturally hide from people like and drink the rum, put the rum under the they used to put the rum under the table before the guests and them come. But I used to be there.
Right.
Right. And these people are prophesizing that they are these big people of God. And they are fooling people. And we have to understand in this land as big people, follow your heart. Don't follow man. The flesh is weak. The flesh will guide you to places you don't want to go. When a man dead and right down there, nobody does not go with him, even though the amount of people go to his funeral, all of them going back home and leaving here alone. He alone lying down there. So you as big people, you all have to make decisions on your own. Stop putting people in front of yourself. You are more important than other people. And stand up as human beings, as father, mothers. Always stand up. Don't let these people confuse all your mind. Because they cannot confuse mine. I have my own mind and my own thinking. Even though somebody is saying something, I just listen to them carefully. Look at the listen. You're talking about the fish, playing this thing with the fisherman at the sea. I always know this fella is not UNC. This fella is paying him all the time. All he used to be taking him on the show and interviewing him. But all you had to learn something in life. When a man don't want to talk out what is going on right through and he's seen it and he always trying to make excuse, that person is not real. Is not real. I could have tell you that before he there. Trinidad and Tobago, stand up. Trinidad and Tobago, we are the people that's suffering. And we can't take no more of that suffering. Regardless of what I say about Camilla, is not truth. Is not truth. Is not truth. What I know about that woman, when a woman take power, a woman come to Tobago and give out a set of toys to children. I even shake that lady hand, right? That woman is a God-sent person. She's so great that you just want to be around her. And some of them can't get to be around her, so they're using bad talk, right? Don't take that on. People, don't take on them nonsense. Them is only nonsense. It's election nonsense. It's garbage. It's rubbish. It's any stupid thing you could think about. Camilla is for us, and we will stay with Camilla. They could say what they want. They could jump high. They could jump low. Let them drag their bow and go from here. Thank you.
Let them know. Before you go, my friend, let them know who is speaking. Who is, and where you're from.
Where I from?
Yeah, where you're from and who is speaking.
Well, Silver Fox is talking here.
Right, Silver Fox, and from where?
Lambo.
On which one of the islands?
Tobago,
right, okay. So, Lambo, Tobago, yes. Silver Fox. The Silver Fox. Thank you very much, of course, my friend.
And God bless Camilla.
Yes, my friend.
And her family. Camilla girl, stick to your guns. No man shall put you under what wise God is for you. Thank you.
Beautiful. You don't want a better authority than that. A Tobagoan, any Tobagonian speaking on this program.
When Indians come to Tobago and they boost our business, Indians from the time they land in Tobago, they are welcome. We love them. We cherish them. They boost our business. And we're not supposed to go against them because we'll be going against our own selves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much. And I don't need to add except to reinforce the fact of the pseudo-racist agenda of the PNM. Pseudo-racist. A pseudo-racist is one that uses his own race, his or her, or he or she, in order to promote himself personally and his public agenda and those they prefer and rather. You see, I say so because Silver Fox from Tobago, Rambo, has said a very poignant thing. He said that, of course, she came, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, as Prime Minister, of course, went to Tobago, and she, of course, greeted, just as what she did in Trinidad, in every nook and cranny along the eastern main road, along the southern main road, etc. And of course, we know, because we have been there. It is recent memory. Rowley and them will like us, of course, to forget. But why I picked up this particular topic emanated from, of course, the presentation of the Tobago contributor was because when he talked about the toys, it was the precursor to Rowley's claim that she went to Tobago during the elections of 2015 and give away food cards as if it's going out of style. Remember that? And when, of course, they introduced the Calcutta ship and the fear-mongering that it evoked and manifested, and of course the UNC and TOP lost that election of that year, the Tobago elections, boy, Rowley say she gave away thousands of cards anybody could get, and in win one seat. He was boasting. You know, today he talking a different talk. He want to persecute Fali and they for having, of course, done the right thing, and that they were placed now, the PNM that is placed in the right place. That is to say, they almost got no seat. He's extremely annoyed and utilizing, of course, the power that he has and the state resources apparatus, including, of course, the licensing office and the police, in order, to, of course, to do what? To intimidate and to, of course, frighten the Tobagonians. But do not be, that is temporary. A pleasant good night, welcome, and all the best. And yes, and a pleasant, of course, Christmas Day to you.
Yeah, you too, boy. I called this morning, but you were sleeping.
Yeah. I had to be, because last night was one of those that, of course, I continue tonight.
I wish everybody a Merry Christmas over my you this morning, except you.
All right, my friend, because you didn't get me personally, but I got it secondhand.
Well, all right, so you get it.
Yeah, I got it, yes.
Right, so before I start tonight, I want to ask you one thing.
Go ahead, my friend.
Well, do you have Texas blood in him?
Texas?
Uh-huh.
Well, to the extent that he went Texas on his first trip, his blighted trip, his ill-fated trip, and resulted, of course, in 11, of course, companies in Point Lisa's closing down eventually, and of course, the National Gas Company, for the first time, twice, experienced a loss. So that's the extent to which I know he's a Texan. And then, of course,
I asked you that because the tape was display.
Is what?
You tape your display now.
Oh, yeah. No, he said that they're saying Texas about his boots, yes. But I just tried to tell you the extent to which he's a Texan. I had to put in that in order to show people how stupid this man is, yes. But go ahead.
Right? Now, what I want to say here now, you can't get vexed with me.
Go ahead.
Senators and them say they have no money to do fix roads, right?
Yes.
Where they getting this money now to go and interfere with the southbound highway? Where they getting money from to do that? The point of coming to Lennox.
Go ahead.
Kamala have to file an injunction and stop that. They have to stop that project.
Because they said that they don't have money.
And they say they have no money to fix roads?
Yeah. But of course, that is more to placate people But we know that they went, of course, to the Andean Bank, not the Andean Bank, well, the Latin American Bank, and they just got money for that very purpose. They got money, of course, for recently, of course, for water improvement. They got money, of course, for alleviating the flood in Port of Spain. Well, I want to tell you, of course, that the flood has not been alleviated. And,
we know that.
Yeah, and of course, Wise Gonzalez will, of course, boast that, of course, 80% of the people getting, and he categorized it. He said 2403, 2407, and I think 2404 or something. So, in other words, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and in some instances, 6 days a week. He hardly said that it's 7 days a week. That is how ill-fated these fellas are politically and otherwise. But go ahead.
Yeah, why telling you now, right?
Yeah.
Sharon Inglefield is a big joke.
Yeah, I hear you. I understand where you're coming from. Go ahead.
She talk about international standards and they tell them, yes, they're building at international standards.
Yes.
We're not interested in that. What they're doing there is a trap. Everybody agree on that.
Yes.
So I say the opposition leader have to file an injunction to stop that. Let them prove that what they're doing better than the cable barriers what Jack put up there. That is all.
Yeah.
She has to get more involved in this thing. And Lennox,
Go ahead.
Brian Manning said that they will reach the target yet for property tax.
Yes.
Brian Manning said that TJV reached nowhere near that yet.
Yeah.
So, but not once I hear Kamala tell people don't pay no property tax. She's supposed to tell them don't pay no property tax. They can't charge you because, and that will be good. Because then they have to prove if they reach the figure. And I play poker with them.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Then they got to come out and show me they have all this amount of signatures.
I hear you. I hear you.
The opposition leader to get more involved in the affairs of the country, you know. I'm telling you.
Right.
Don't sit down there and wait and hope to just win an election, you know. Get involved from now. You know I all for Kamala. But you have to get more involved. Stand up to them, put them in the blasted court, man, Lennox. I want you to stop that project. Lennox, listen to this, the last thing.
Go ahead.
The British and everybody do all the infrastructural work in this country, right?
Yeah. Initially,
Right.
in the early days.
Initially.
Yes.
And after World War II, the Americans come, they build the Churchill Roosevelt Highway. Roosevelt and Churchill together, they build that. And they build the base here, all up in other words. They do everything for the country. The PNM, they do nothing for the country, and that's what they do. Build a highway going south, and a few secondary schools. We, the people, Indians, French Creole, Portuguese, Syrians and Chinese, is everybody build their own house? We build our own house, otherwise what this place will look like. Right? And then they want to play this monarch of all this survey and come in and say we have to pay property tax. That can't happen. Follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I hear you.
Come now to take a stand here, Lennox. Because if we didn't get to and do we own thing, what are we living in them little one room house where they give the people? They will leave for that. So now is the time to test the waters.
All right.
Let people stop paying property tax.
I hear
And
you.
if they challenge here, they come in court and show where they have the figure that they say they have. What we have is a bunch of nitwits ruling over me by the dogs.
Well, obviously,
I mean, if we
a
have a chance
catastocracy. People who are undeserving to be in government are there. In addition to being a kleptocracy, meaning that a government of thieves.
Richard Silverty, as far as the West Indies cricket is concerned, somebody fellas public enemy spell the word cricket. Right? And I agree with River.
I hear you.
This government, they could probably spell the word government, but they can't spell the word governance. They can't prove that. They can't spell the word governance. Look at the kind of people ruling over me.
Yeah, I mean, it is appalling and it is dangerous. Appalling and extremely dangerous to have these nitwits, as you describe them, to be, of course, the managers of Trinidad and Tobago's affairs in
Exactly.
21st century Trinidad and Tobago, or in 21st century world, for that matter.
Your position leader had to get a little more involved with Lennox. I know.
I hear you. All right, my friend.
I'm talking my mind here.
Yeah, no problem, man. And that is what this program is all about, talk your mind. And of course, we will temper it with other positions and so on if it requires tempering, or people will assess for themselves if of such a position requires tempering. All right? Okay.
She can't be there in the parliament because you have witchy broom, right?
Yeah, of course. We have with room, and then you have 22, should I say, very attenuous seats. 22 only, but
we could be there
it
in
is
the
a
court.
majority. And therefore, that is what PNM and Rowley is concerned about, believing that somehow they could be a dictator by that.
But we could be there in the court.
Yeah, well, we have done so on several occasions. So much so that they are now wary of such a position. Ordinary people like myself will go to the courts and beat them. I want Rowley, of course. Yes. Why Stuart Young did not pursue, of course, his pre-action protocol letter to me and Andy Williams, for example. But they are cowards in more ways
You
than one.
expect he could take that chance against you? Madam Opposition Leader, if you listen, Merry Christmas. And I call it on you. Put these people in the courts.
That's bad.
Charge them from now and let them know what it is.
Yes. All right, my friend.
You can't run offshore over me, Lennox. You can't allow that.
You cannot allow it. No. Evil could never prevail over good. But we have some more callers coming in. So I don't want to.
About your idiots running the country.
Yes, definitely. Kakistocracy. All right. Yes, indeed. Of course, I see a call that was coming in there, but all right. But of course, he raised several points, and I wanted quickly to get to them because, of course, he's calling, of course, Kamala Prasad to tell the people not to pay property tax. But I want to say I think Kamala's strategy is correct because what you would do is open up yourself to, of course, the PNM propaganda machinery, saying that she is calling on the people to act illegally. You know what I say? She's calling on the people to act illegally. That is what, of course, Rowley and they will pounce upon as part of their propaganda machinery. And at any rate, there are enough, of course, influencers out there, including myself, who have already pronounced that they ought not to. But we must protect the opposition leader. Because she will be, of course, the creme de la creme and the ultimate target. And once Rowley and them get a bullseye, they ruthlessly and brutally, in addition, of course, to deflect attention away from the pertinent and important issues in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have to be very careful as to the advice that we are giving the opposition leader. But let's go to the lines. Professor, good night. Professor, good night.
Yes, Mr. Lennox.
Yes, Professor, good night.
Yes, Mr. Lennox, good night.
Good night.
Continuing on last night, remember what I told you about that property tax issue, right? Remember?
Yeah.
I told you
that
they didn't receive the 50% threshold, but they implemented it.
They did what? They didn't receive the 50% threshold.
Oh,
right. Okay, go ahead.
But they implemented it, hoping to receive the threshold. So now, by extending the deadline, so that people will pay, because that's what Manning said. That they're hoping to receive the threshold by having people pay, which is wrong.
We need to clear up something here because I'm seeing you saying the same thing. So after you finish, I will clear up something here so you'll understand. So we are on the same page thereafter. But go ahead.
And added to that, I think on this breaking dawn, Stefan had a freedom of information where he got from the Ministry of Finance requesting that he wanted to know about the threshold. And the response from the Ministry of Finance was, there is no such document.
Yeah, I hear all of that. I hear all of that. But there's a gray area that I want to clear up. Go ahead.
All right, okay, all right.
Okay, yeah.
And well, I'll allow you to, but I'll give you the update.
I understand. What the caller is referring to clearly is the shenanigans of the Rowley administration. Typical. They of course concoct positions under the pretext that it is legal and at the same time emanating from a source of authority. In this case, of course, the Commissioner of Evaluations. We saw when, of course, they printed handbills, flyers, saying that, listen, and sent it, of course, to owners of property, saying that it came from, purporting to have come from the Commissioner of Valuation, when in fact it was not so. And that was tested in the court, and that is why they had to postpone and tear up all that money, taxpayers' money that they spent to print these, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of handbills, pamphlets. And then the court said, well, listen, in order for you to implement that, because you have control of the government, you are the executive, in terms of managing the affairs financially, the fiscal management of the country is reposed in the executive. And once you have a right to impose or rescind the taxes, in this particular case, for you to be able, of course, to get your way, you must have 50% of the 400,000 households that, or should I say properties that is known in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why, of course, it was delayed a little longer by 2 years or so, because we wanted to implement that way back in about 2022, and possibly before that, but 2020 was COVID. But anyhow, let us not focus on the date when they wanted to. But the fact of the matter is that they had to go back on the drawing board and get 50% of the 400,000 household that was estimated to be part and parcel of the properties in Trinidad and Tobago. All right. So at a certain point in time, I think last year or the year before, they said that they reached the 50% mark. Now that 50% is 50% of the registration that the court said must happen. 50% must be registered before you could start the implementation. After that, you start implementation, and now, of course, it is valid for the Commissioner of Valuations to, of course, issue these valuation documents. But they adopted what I consider to be a slipshod or a expeditious mechanism to get the people to know what or to get them to know what the value of their property is. Having, of course, set up the formula that after you make certain deductions, 3% of what remain would be, of course, what you have to pay, but then, of course, they reduce it further to 2%. After, of course, the 1%ers and others say that, nah, this can't work. So that was the state of affairs. So now, we have reached the stage where the implementation of the pain, and therefore the pain of that tax that would have been evaluated, whether you did it or whether they did it, from the office of the Commissioner of Evaluations, they have established that, and of course a mechanism to, of course, challenge it, should in case you are saying one thing or another. And there are other cases where people never got any evaluation at all, and they just agreed that, of course, if you didn't get any evaluation document in the mail or otherwise, you would be exempted from any penalty that may ensue as a consequence of late payment of your property tax. The question that was asked, let me get it clear here now. So there's, on the one hand, the 50% threshold as to the registration of persons who own property. That is one aspect of it. The other part of it now is the paying of the taxes. From my understanding, it is the paying of the taxes, whether 50% of that group or those persons who are eligible to pay taxes paid up. And that is why he said they are nearing that point, but they have not yet reached. So it has nothing to do with the initial legal position, which triggered, of course, the actual payment. I hope that I make myself clear, because I have seen a number of persons giving the notion that the 50%, as far as actual payment is concerned, is similar to, or they're making the mistake that is similar to the actual amount of persons registered. And therefore, as a result of that, property registration has nothing to do with payment yet. Registration, the payment part of it was now instituted, and the question was asked of Manning whether 50% of that grouping had paid, and of course he said no. But it's obvious, simply because there are people who are saying they are not going to pay, and there are people who are saying I am going to query, and there are people who are saying that they waited for Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the UNC to come into office, simply because they said one of the first action will be to rescind that tax and revert back to the land and building taxes. I trust that tonight we have cleared up that. Right? So one does not equate to the other. One is about the registration of the property, as the court said they must do, because they didn't do that, and it was illegal for them to just send out these forms, these evaluation forms to people when the registration roll process was not completed. So they delayed and they gave postponement with respect to the registration process, and then eventually Imsbert said that they met the 50% threshold, which means, of course, that there are 200,000 persons registering their properties that they have on record. After that, they now can proceed to sending out these evaluation forms for persons to, of course, evaluate on their own volition, or from the Office of the Commissioner of Valuations. It is that question that was put to Manning, whether or not whether you meet 50% of that 200,000. So it would have been whether or not 100,000 persons would have paid up. And that is when he said we are not yet there. So not even 50% of the 200,000, which should be, of course, 100,000 persons, have not paid up. And I say credit to them for not responding, because as was the case with the Boston Tea Party, no taxation without representation. And the representation of Rowley and Day has been one of not just shenanigans, but trickery. Because when one looks at the fact that Rowley said in 2008, 2009, when, of course, he was opposing, of course, Patrick Manning, he said that not one of his constituents could pay $100 increase. You know what I say? I say that Rowley said that none of his, whilst the PNM was in opposition in 2008, Sorry, whilst they were in government, sorry, in 2008, because 2010 is when the government changed. So in 2008, 2010, Rowley was saying, when he was opposing Manning, that not one of his constituents can pay $100. I say $100, I want you to understand and have it indelibly implanted in your mind that he said that they couldn't pay $100, none of his constituents, because I'm going further. I'm saying to you that Rowley also said, and was making the point that the most amount of money we have ever gotten as a nation from our gas, oil, and petrochemical industries, the most ever was in 2008. So therefore, the affordability at that time would have been great, or at minimum greater than today. Well, today, the minimum you have to pay, the minimum you have to pay in property tax is $500. Yeah, what I say? I said $500. And so if it is that you are squatting and you have a structure on the premises, and it is valued in terms of the rental value, it's below $14,000. Below $14,000, you have to pay a minimum of $500. So you understand the level of hypocrisy and the level of evil that is Rowley and his, of course, what I consider to be uncanny, wicked, and criminalistic behavior. And the deliberate, as we have discovered already, and we have of course projected, and we have proven that it was all about power and nothing to do, of course, with the goodwill that the people had for the PNM, as he exploited that and all in order, of course, to project and to gain and to, of course, execute his pernicious, evil, wicked, diabolical, and of course autocratic, and of course totalitarian position. Totalitarian position, people. Understand that. So I hope that tonight we have cleared up that. Two positions. One had to do, once again, with the role that was supposed to be populated. They delayed, and of course they said that they reached that threshold of 200,000 on that role. So when the actual implementation started, it means therefore they would have started with 200,000. The question was asked of Manning whether or not people paid up. The half threshold was reached in that regard. In other words, we're talking about 100,000, and he said no. No, 100,000 persons have not yet paid up. Because it's 200,000 is supposed to be the threshold to, of course, implement the measure. So let's get that clear. But I want to go back, of course, to the question of Kamala Persad-Bissessar, and, of course, the asking of her to act in a particular way. And I said, no, it's not the time. You don't want the opposition to find themselves in a position, or the opposition leader find herself in a position where she has to fend off stupid, asinine, and dotish propaganda that the Rowley administration and the PNM are capable, of course, of manufacturing. So she's smart enough to remain silent. That in itself is a strategy. Now, if you had said that she said blatantly pay up, then I would understand. But she remained silent. That is a strategy. Silence doesn't only mean consent. It also means non-consent. If you ask me something and it's a yes or no answer, and I remain silent, it could be yes, it could be no. So let us get that clear. I agree with the caller, of course, that the whole question of testing the government as to the viability in terms of in terms of security on the roads and the construction of those barriers as opposed to, as they did, discontinue with the cable barriers. And the cable barriers were put there because of research done. So there is a valid and a scientific and a what I consider to be in the road safety industry, if you want to call it that, or in the sphere of road safety, cable barriers have proven to be much more amenable to the prevention of damage to human beings when they would have come in contact with the cable, because its flexibility and so on will act as a kind of sling so as to bring the vehicle to a stop, but without, of course, damaging it in such a way that the drivers, the human being, the human occupants would not lose life or limb, or should I say, reduce the possibility of losing life. But these fellas decide to put these solid barriers of steel, so when you bounce it, the likelihood that death will occur and the loss of limb will occur is real. And therefore that to me is an argument that we can use, researching of course the efficaciousness and the prevention of life loss with the use of cable, as opposed to these barriers, these solid barriers that they are putting down now on in the very areas that cable formerly was installed. So I have no difficulty with that. But the first part, of course, the whole question of Kamala telling people to not go and pay their property tax. No. I don't think that that should be a position she should take. And she has taken the right position, remaining silent on the matter. What she has said, however, is that when the UNC comes into government, that measure will be rescinded, because she will be accused of promoting illegality, etc., etc. And who knows, the UNC may have to implement a measure, and Rowley and they and anybody else will think that they have a right to tell the people, do not, even though it was passed in the parliament and is law, do not obey the law. And I think that is dangerous. So that is the context in which I would want to respond to those items. Professor, good night, welcome. Professor, good night, welcome.
Yes, Mr. Lennox.
Yes. Yes.
Do you hear me clearly?
Loud and clear, go ahead.
Right. On the question of the property tax.
Yes.
Right. I would want to urge residents, citizens, do not query if you get an overstated property tax assessment. Do not query it. Now, the Commissioner of Assessment must do an evaluation of your property before they send you a notice.
Yes.
Right. If they send you an overstated notice and you query it, then you automatically taking your information to them. They're forcing you, in other words, to give the information to them when you go to query. So do not, I am urging the citizens, do not go to query if you get an overstated assessment, or even if you did not get an assessment. Because you would be doing the work of the commissioner. You would, in other words, giving them the information to assess you.
But what do you, if it is an overstatement, now I understand if it's a double statement, like some people get two different statements about the same property, that's a different story. But if you have an overstatement, what such a person do in such a circumstance, because it's an overstatement?
Yes, what I'm saying, if you get an overstatement, do not go to query it.
Right, I hear you. What, God pay then? Go and pay the overstatement.
No.
I'm asking you. That's the only alternative I'm seeing there. So go ahead, let me explain.
Right, this is what I'm saying. Do not go to query it.
Right.
Let the action be taken by the Commission of
I understand. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
In other words, they're forcing you to give your information to them so they could assess you.
All right, good, okay.
That's what I'm saying, right? Thanks.
I hear you. But I want one to be very careful there. Because if it is that you have an overstatement, you know it's an overstatement. The commissioner, they expect you to go and pay, but you didn't pay. The commissioner now comes into play, and of course they will do their whatever investigations, etc. And then of course, whatever they come up with, which would be theirs, and it will be less. But how would you determine that is an overstatement? How would they know it's an overstatement? There must be some kind of communication on it. If the thing is really $5 and they say $10 you have to pay. In their interaction, you ain't pay. You say, listen, you're not satisfied. You know the law says that you have to go and pay a lawyer and an evaluator to confirm what you are saying, you know. So there's a cost involved. I want people to know that. The law says so. Yeah. But go ahead. Let's go to the lines. All the best for the Christmas night, Christmas day. I trust so far you had an incident-free one. A pleasant good night.
A pleasant good night to you, Lennox,
yes,
and to my friends on the chat as well.
Yes.
Lennox, I'm a bit confused here with that last caller, saying that if it is that you don't agree with it, do not query it because you are giving the evaluator information. Yeah. But Lennox, we have to give them information. Yeah. We have to give them. We have to submit plans.
Yeah, whether the office come and talk to you. Yeah, they have to. You have to give them some kind of information.
You have to give them information. Yeah. Yeah. We had to give them the deed for the house. Right, and all of that we had to submit.
Right.
Right? And Lennox, on top of it, Amber told us that if we don't agree with the amount of money, right, we have to pay a evaluator.
I just said that. Evaluators. Yeah. That's the law. You have to pay a evaluator. They're not taking it from you.
They're
taking it from an independent professional. Yeah.
Upon themselves.
Yeah.
Right? They're not taking it upon themselves to do it. You have to pay. And the evaluator starts at $2,500. That's a fee of what your property is worth.
Yeah.
This is all the way around. We were screwed.
That's right.
Right?
The thing is stuck against the property owner. Stuck against them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing is in our favor.
That's right.
Nothing is in our favor. And Lennox, when it first came out, I think it was in 2007 or something like that.
2007.
When you remember when you all were talking about it on the ground report, right? That people, they bring in it not addressed to anybody and don't pay it and don't acknowledge it or whatever. You remember that?
Because we were of the view that it was a bogus, should I say, delusionary.
Because it had nobody's name on it. It was just in the post box.
Of Rowley and the wickedness. Yeah. Remember that?
Right. That is when Kamala said not to pay it, that she kept the form.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
But when it was passed in Parliament at the beginning of this year, when it was passed in Parliament and it came down to 2%, she said it is now law.
That's right.
Right? And we have to pay it. And if we need help, there are a lot of UNC lawyers available to help the people.
Beautiful. She could simply not. She could not have said no, don't pay, because it is law.
Yeah.
She's a lawyer. She's a senior counsel.
Opposition leader. After it was passed in January, when she took it to court,
right?
When the UNC took it to court with the 5%, right? And they brought it down now right? They brought it down to it's 3 or 2% or something like that. They brought it down.
Yeah,
2%
now, 2%.
right?
It was 3
and that
then
is
2, yeah.
Right, and they brought it down now. Yeah, that's right. 3 and then came down to 2, and this is where she said it is now law. It was passed in Parliament and advising the people to pay because you do not want to be a lawbreaker.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a lawbreaker, so she was advising
Even
them.
though
So who choose not to
will
pay?
repeal it
That's on them.
at the appropriate time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's on them if they don't want to pay. But they have to remember as well, it's only until Kamala and them come into office that she said she did make the promise that they were going to repeal it. But if that if that don't happen, Lennox, she said it could go up to 10%. But the kicker is the due date is September, but from the 1st of October it starts accruing. Interest starts accruing from 10%.
Yes, indeed. And even
it starts accruing from 10%.
If you have valid reason that was accepted that you can't pay it, and you end up dying, but there is a technical inheritance tax that it has been converted to.
Yeah, you remember when she was talking about that inheritance tax?
Property will now have to pay, of course, IMSBert.
Will now have to pay all that back tax.
Yeah, but IMSBert with his IMS self, that midget, and that, of course, what I consider to be nincompoop, will tell us that that's a no big thing, because if you those who inherit the property will now be lawyers and so on and so forth. But I think he's insulting, of course, people in Lavatil, Beetham, Sealands.
He's always insulting. Yes. He's always insulting Lennox.
Yes.
The man appearance is an insult.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, the man appearance is an insult.
Yeah.
Right? And you remember when Kamala was talking about inheritance tax, they said she lied. She this, that, and the other. You see how now it come to pass with this inheritance tax?
Yes, everything she said has come to pass.
Yeah,
therefore,
everything that she predicted came to pass, Lennox.
And
if it is that they don't pay
it, has failed. It turned out to be lies.
Exactly, but Lennox, what I find was unfair, right? They're not allowing us to pay it like on a monthly basis. You have to wait now at the end of that time, well, when it is due to pay.
No, you're right. I'm
told
that
us
because I have a friend in Toko. It's a small amount, so he decided to pay all one time for the full year, and they told him no. Is it a sign of the uncertainty, and they hope that when the backlash comes, they will have to pay off less because they ask people to pay it on certain, should I say, segmented parts of the year? I don't know, but don't put it past
Lennox,
them. There's always something sinister.
I remembered before 2009 when I was paying property tax, I would go with the old receipt. Once you have the number on it, you go with the old receipt and you pay your land and building taxes, right?
Yes.
Now it's not so. We were told that we have to wait to get a notice before we can come. So now they're going to spend money again now, right? To send out notices when you can take the old receipt and go and pay it like on a month. No. They said no. We have to wait for that that notice in order to go and pay, which means that they can raise it anytime, Lennox, without you knowing.
I mean, is it blight? Is the people curse? I mean, their failure, of course, is monumental.
You know why, Lennox? Because there is lie too much. There is lie too much, and liars are blights.
The interests of the people. Nothing they can work out to a reasonable and acceptable level towards, of course, making the population comfortable. It's as though they are thinking.
Yeah, they're not doing that.
And think about evil to do to the people, and the people still considering and don't understand that these people should be jettisoned from your mind, the politics, the government, and possibly, of course, out of Trinidad and Tobago altogether. They can't understand that yet. Come on.
Lennox, let me tell you something. They blighted because it is like to damn much. Right? They like to get into office and they like to govern.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's
You hear?
right.
They don't care about the people of this country.
Right.
They don't care about the people of this country. And Lennox, before I leave, I want to tell Gary Aboud.
Go ahead.
You could come now and try to run interference. It ain't going to work. Because you cannot unring that bell, right? That racist bell that you were ringing.
That's right.
He didn't find Rowley was pushing race when he talked about the banana and he had the sorry skit and all of that. No, he didn't say it because they are all blinded to what Rowley is doing. Right? Because them as Rowley partner. But he know because Philip Alexander called them out on some contract cartel,
yes.
He know Kamala pushing race. But today now, he coming to play bullshit in people, but we ain't gonna fall for that.
Beautiful.
You can dress up in how much of yellow with a little bit of red. We don't care. You can hang it round your neck. We don't care. We have taken the decision that we are going to boycott Moda Life and we are not buying from them. Lennox, you take care, have a good night, and enjoy the rest of all your holidays. Take care.
Thank you very much as well. And of course, it's already 25 minutes past 9 o'clock, so the time is just quickly, expeditiously, of course, slowing down, or should I say, increasing, whatever position you take. But I started, of course, with Gary Aboud, so let me continue with that. And remember, I said that is it another play where, of course, people like Helen Drayton, people like, of course, Father Harvey, people like Calypsonians, including, of course, Coco, people like, of course, Justice Vento, and, of course, the final one would have been members of the trade union, in this case, of course, Roger in particular. 5 category of persons. 5 of them. Why have I mentioned that? Because you see, all of them, all 5 category of persons, before 2015, wield a tremendous amount of public opinion swearing. Let me repeat. They wield a tremendous amount of public opinion swearing. People listen to them, in other words, and see them as serious, and that they make sense, and that their integrity would have been intact and should be lauded, and that they have the best interests of Trinidad and Tobago at heart. And that, of course, over the years, they have built up, of course, a following that respects their public utterances on national issues and matters. You see, I am saying so because Gary Aboud now becomes the reincarnation of what transpired before the 2015 general elections in favor of the PNM. We are seeing that, of course, today, because he was the only one that never came out, of course, and created the bias disposition as the 5 categories. So we know their modus operandi, we know their characteristics, we know, of course, the variables that are built into the fake objectivity that they display. Fake objectivity that they display. Yes, people. That is why I mentioned, of course, Helen Drayton, independent senator. I mentioned, of course, Father Harvey, a Catholic priest. I mentioned, of course, Coco in Calypsonian. I mentioned, of course, Justice Vento, a former justice, judge, and of course, the final one, Roger. But let's go to the lines. The President, good night. Welcome. Have we lost that one? Like we lost that one. Yes, that is why. Because they know that. So they sway. They try to sway public opinion. That is what he tried. Listen to him now. Again, and you will now understand what I am talking about in totality. Not that I don't believe that you didn't understand before, but now that I think that now that the explanation has been associated, or should I say, given simultaneously, you will understand now the statements that are being made. Listen to him.
Now, Philip Alexander wants to hate me.
Yes, indeed.
He's a Syrian like myself. Because he didn't make a success of his life, he wants to destroy people that have worked 12 and 14 hours a day to make theirs. Is that what the UNC stands for? For a man that called the leader a drunk and a whore should now be waving a flag conveniently. Could you imagine Mr. Alexander as the Minister of Finance or the Minister of Works? Where does his excellence come from? What has he contributed to national development that the yellows, the UNC, should grab onto him and make him the mouthpiece of the party? I don't have no alliance to anybody.
And I want to say categorically, and you must be appalled. You must feel offended. You must feel disrespected. You must feel that it is an attack on your logical common sense and intellect. When, of course, whether he is concerned about something that is personal between him and Philip Alexander is irrelevant to the rest of us. That is his personal forte, his personal acronym, his personal anathema, which of course that man has nothing to do with us. So to say that he's a UNC spokesman, I think is a blatant and unadulterated lie. Nobody could say that Philip Alexander is a spokesman for the UNC. How would that come about? And that is where I think that he is extremely dishonest in his, of course, attempt to try to salvage some kind of, I don't know, advantage over this man, the personal thing, and bringing the UNC into it. Because, of course, there is some discussion between his party, Philip Alexander's party, and the UNC. That is despicable. And you should apologize, Gary. You should apologize. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good morning. Good night.
Yeah, I understand. You are confused, but all of us are.
Yes, good night, Lennox.
I know you want 2025 to come quick because you want to go and vote. You want to ram that finger to show Rowley and how despicable they are, and that the UNC and Kamala Prasad Bissessa will prevail ultimately. But go ahead.
Like Mr. Lennox, I wouldn't be long. Hear what happened now.
Yeah.
You see Gary Aboud? He's very despicable. The man is actually a liar. He's an old PNM. I know him from a long time, you know. I know this man called Gary Aboud from a long time. He's a liar. He's an old PNM. I know them. You understand? He might know me, but I know him. And I know his family because his family is public figures in the sense that they own businesses and things. And them will wish that PNM could stay in power for all the days of their life. I know these people. You understand?
Yes.
Boy, now I want to tell Gary Aboud, Hall, I go understand enough.
I hear you, my friend. I hear you, my friend. Yeah, and dishonest is an appropriate term to describe that. Why? Because he said that Philip Alexander is a spokesperson for the UNC. How could you conclude that? What rationale you use to conclude that, Gary? Above what? Listen to this man. This man has gone berserk.
His life, he wants to destroy people that have worked 12 and 14 hours a day to make theirs. Is that what the UNC stands for? For a man that called the leader a drunk and a whore should now be waving a flag conveniently. Could you imagine Mr. Alexander as the Minister of Finance or the Minister of Works? Where does his excellence come from? What has he contributed to national development that the Yellows, the UNC, should grab onto him and make him the mouthpiece of the party? I don't have no alliance to anybody. I am looking for love and peace, for unity, and for national development that could help all people. Where does Philip come into this? What is happening to the UNC? If you belong to the UNC, have you lost your tongue? Have they cut it off? Are you neutered? Don't you see what is happening to the UNC? As it stands now, I'll tell you with great respect, I would be willing to work with anybody to fight the UNC so that this nonsense that Kamala is promoting is cut in the bud and she is kept out of Parliament for life. Just for what has happened with Mr. Alexander and what he has said in the past.
So, this man is a consummate nincompoop. He is the quintessential exemplification of a person in a state of discombobulation. The man is totally conflict in himself. Because you cannot first and foremost arrogate unto yourself a conclusion that is not nestled in reality, that Philip Alexander is a spokesperson for the UNC. Come on. He's the least of the apostles. The UNC has spokespersons of par excellence, much better than he would want to give, Gary, would want to give to Philip Alexander. After all these years, it's 19 seats they have, Gary. I hope you know that. And it's only 19, 20, 21 to become the government, I hope you know where you're trying to influence or say, but more than that. He went on, of course, to say categorically, as if he has any kind of influence at all, that he will work to prevent Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC from coming into government. Hold your tail. I say hold your ass. Who is you? You have no political currency. The PNM knows that, and of course they like what you are saying now, and they are going to, of course, their political machinery, propaganda will be working overtime on that. But I want to tell you, among the African community, and worse yet among the Indian community, and double worse yet among certain parts of the African community, you are persona non grata. You have no sway or say. How dare you arrogate to that level of arrogance and contempt unto yourself? Your recrimination as far as Philip Alexander and all your feud, if you want to call it that, that is all your business. But to take that and then, of course, impose it, superintend it, in such a way so as to give the impression that not only do you have sway and you're going to work against Kamala Persad-Bissessar, etc., you're fooling yourself. That's a false narrative and a false impression. You're nothing different to Rowley. Yeah, you're nothing different to Rowley. And that is logoria. Superficially, apparent convincing talk But really, it is nonsense. Yeah. Clearly, this is a classic case of manic depressive psychosis. You know what I say? I said this is a classic case of manic depressive psychosis. He has lost touch of reality altogether, spontaneously and spectacularly. How dare you? You and Philip Alexander have all your feud. And the recriminations, of course, go backward and forward. How the hell the UNC and Kamala Prasad Bisesa gets into this? Where and how? Who stated that Philip Alexander is a spokesman? I remember very distinctly. To show how, of course, he is engaged, of course, in what I consider to be square peg and round hole logic. You had to be a whole ass. Square peg and round hole logic. Because listen, when Philip Alexander said what he had to say, I think emanating from a my apology. You know, sometimes when you touch the mic with the phone, sometimes it gets, should I say, cut off from me. And my apology. Thanks for that caller that gave that impression. I must keep my eyes on the system because, you know, on the worst possible time, you know, like Murphy's Law, when something has to happen, it will, but at the worst possible time. So, but a pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
I was calling about the mic, boy.
About the mic. All right, good. Okay, yes, I'm on.
I wasn't getting no volume. I said I wasn't getting no volume.
Yeah, that's because, yes, it was cut off here. I touched something in studio. The mic, yeah.
But one more thing, man.
Go ahead.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
Everybody afraid Kamala, no, boy. I wonder why.
Everybody afraid what?
Everybody afraid Kamala.
Yeah, everybody afraid Kamala, including this fella, to the point where he talking total diatribe and hogwash.
Yeah, but honestly, everybody afraid Kamala.
Yeah, because the writing is on the wall. So all of them, the writing is on the wall. They know she's going to win the elections, and she's well on her way. So they're trying, of course, to turn back. You know, they say that there's something that cannot come back or cannot be lowered, like age. Age, for example, and of course,
and she too old.
Smoke going up in the air. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for that attempt. I'll have to treat with this system properly so that we don't have these interruptions frequently. But let's go back there. President, good night. Welcome. President, good night. Welcome. Caller.
Yeah. Someone come up. Yeah, I pressed by mistake. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Okay then. Yeah. Well, everybody pressing by mistake because they want to get in and yet they want to hear. Well, I was making a point just in case you lost it. That Gary Aboud has no locus standi. He has no authority to pronounce on who is or not a spokesperson for the UNC. More than that, his rationale and his square peg and round hole argument that he will work to make certain that Kamala Harris and the UNC does not gain government, and that is inevitable, of course, in this country, is nestled on a false, fake premise. He does not have the constituency. A constituency here doesn't mean a political constituency. I mean a cadre of persons and they therefore influence. Because every time, of course, he speaks about something dealing with, of course, the environment, the marine environment, whether it be spill oil, etc., he's always by himself. He's always by himself. He doesn't speak. And at the back of him, you see, of course, hundreds of persons. What influence that caused the basis for him to talk such hogwash? He must be suffering from some kind of mental disorientation. Let's go to the lines. Pleasant good night.
Lennox, hey. Good night again. Lennox, you hear this stinker? You hear this stinker?
Yeah,
that the UNC grab on to Philip and made him their mouthpiece, right? And Kamala Pasabi says promoting that. Kamala never promoted anything. Kamala made it quite clear that is between Philip Alexander and Gary Aboud, right? He forget that Philip Alexander has his own party. But you know what is amazing? Since Philip formed this party and started in politics, he was talking about the 1% and the hearing back and whatever, right? Now, everybody know I'm no flag bearer for Philip Alexander, okay? But you come and, it didn't offend you all the time. But you get somebody to beat up on now, and you come in to talk about Kamala promoting that, and you going to work with anybody to get rid of the UNC? Gary Aboud have no shame. Look at what the PNM is doing to this country. Look at what, and
but we have to say for what it is. What he has said is that he's prepared to work with the PNM to get rid of. I don't know what he's getting rid of. That's what he's saying, to come up against the UNC. And I want to go further. He's also saying that because, and he has come out at this time because he realized that the journey to victory is inevitable on the part of the UNC and Kamala.
That's what I'm telling Lennox.
That's all he's saying.
Because they're seeing, they're seeing that the alliance, it have them unsee.
That's right.
But let me remind you about something.
Go ahead.
He said that he have no allegiance to no party, which is a big stinking lie again. He said it on the ground report. We all know the Syrian supports the PNM, right? There's some who don't. He admitted it on the ground report that he voted for Rowley, right? Because he believed all Rowley lies about what it is the partnership government was doing. And he said that he waited all this time to see who's going to be charged, and nobody's going to be charged. And that is what pushed him to go and get the Freedom of Information information on Petrotrin. So because he went and get that on Petrotrin, right away the crayfish posse saying that he's not a PNM. No, you see what happened, Lennox? The crayfish posse believe in all rowdy lies and they don't want to know the truth. But this PNMite didn't believe rowdy lies again, but he wanted to know the truth about Petrotrin. Right? So how does that make Gary Aboud not a PNM? Because he asked for that information. And it proved in the Freedom of Information that Rowley was lying. But like it's only PNMIs don't see Rowley lying. Like the immune take Lennox.
Don't fight.
You know how
in
some
a
women
certain section, those who are prepared to give up their own integrity, their own humanity, their own ability to sense right and wrong, simply because of 30 pieces of silver. Don't forget that. That is your Puritan too.
That's right. Lennox, let me tell you something, You see how some women love abuse? That is PNMites.
Well, Gary has proven that as well.
They love abuse.
He love abuse because when he was making his disclosure and discovery consequential of the Freedom of Information that he would have had in his possession about the lies about the government supporting financially Petrotrin, he did say at the ending, and I'm going to play it tomorrow, I'll add it to the ending of this piece of clip that I have here now, is that he's wondering what they will do to him now. He's wondering what they will do to him now.
Watch himself.
Yes,
what they will do to him now,
whether or not they will persecute him. Well, of course, he has now, of course, declared his hand. We know clearly where he is, and certainly he will be persecuted. Whether you want to call it persecuted, but I want to say there's justifiable persecution in this case.
But
People
he
like
made
us
a real fool of himself.
Must respond to the lies and the deception, and of course, and that mental state that he has found himself in. Yeah.
But my take on it again, Lennox, and I stand by it. If you have a beef with Philip Alexander, for him coming out and what Philip said that he will, should they get into government, he will expose them, and I think that is what have him vexed too, right?
Yeah, I realize that is a personal thing between he and Philip. Do not arrogate it, do not project it onto the UNC and Kamala Prasad Bissessa. Very simple, but he's not a bright fella. It is clear that he's not a bright fella. Or his irascibility, his choleric position appeared to have overwhelmed him, and he began to. I bet you when he goes home, he'll be talking something different. Just as the 1% man who said we are only 1%, but of course powerful. He regretted that he said that. Well, of course, but then of course we know who the gods wish to destroy. They first send them mad. So it is clear that he is getting a bout of that of that madness. That is of course the outcome of persons who are very deceptive and of course dangerous.
Lennox, well, let me tell you something. He proved that he have anthrax. He have foot and mouth disease. He put his size 15 foot inside his mouth. That tonight now he made a new video trying to compensate for it.
Well, you
but
see,
I ain't cannot unring that bell.
Nah, I see it. So you will say that he meant so and so or what he didn't mean, etc.
Yeah.
But no, we are going to call it out for what it is. No, there can be no remorse. There can be no recompensing. There can be no reneging or settling. What you have to do is do the right thing. Apologize to Kamala Prasad Bissessa, and even in such circumstance, one wonders to what extent that will be legitimate, having regard to all of the recriminations that were leveled against the UNC and Kamala Prasad Bissessa. Go ahead, my friend. A pleasant good night. That's a good night.
Christmas, Lennox, to everybody on your live and to you and your family.
Yes, same to you.
Right. Okay, I know you're talking about Gary and thing, but anybody any news about the rig and thing, they get the rig? Because this country looking like, I feel just now, down south might blow up and float away, you know. Because they've been taking care of nothing in this place, you know.
Well,
because the road bad, everything bad, you know.
Is the Bible say what will happen to people who are the product of spiritual wickedness in high places? The high places are there, and these vipers have now populated it. They have saturated it. It is pregnant, of course, with that level of evil. And so whether it be fire on one of their own, or whether, of course, is the falling of a platform in the sea, very unusual. Very unusual.
Lennox, I work out there for 8 years. You know if a whole director come now?
I'm telling you.
Like an Eiffel Tower. That whole thing to come down. You know, I don't know what on earth could bring down a whole director.
That's what I'm saying.
Besides if it's even top drive.
And I want to know what on earth, using your term, could make NGC lose money twice. Twice in 2 years. The cash cow of the country twice. All they have to do is to collect the gas, pay for it, sell it to other companies, make money, and gas is, of course, a commodity that is in absolute and total demand. How you lose money? Yeah. How? Rowley, tell me now, how you lose money?
I know a fella that used to come quite in Toronto to buy diesel to carry to Dominica.
They're telling you how you lose money. And worse yet, the Heritage and Celebration Fund for the first time under Rowley didn't make a cent. It can lose because it is the way how it is set up, but it didn't make no money. For the first time since, of course, its inception and implementation in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago, all of us. How come?
But anything that makes sense to them, whether it be money wise.
I'm telling you, that is why I came up with about 10 different scenarios that any one of which could have saved the parliamentary representative for Dabadi O'Meara, Lisa Morris, Julian, and all of them went awry. All of them, and any one that was functioning properly would have saved her, whether it be the fire tenders close by, whether it be, of course, the pipes having water, but none of them were close by, and there was no blasted water even when 2 of them arrived. So what is this? What is this?
You don't know if the truck was coming and the door open out and all of them fly out.
All of that is possible, but the point is, all of that were part of the variables to save life, and yet still none of them were available to save those lives.
Well, that's the height of a failed country, you know. When the emergency service
what is in the cosmos that is so against Trinidad and Tobago? What is so bizarre, so barbaric, so unholy, so evil against Trinidad? The common denominator, Rowley and the PNM. That's the common denominator.
Right.
In all of these cases, Rowley and the PNM, and I talk about, of course, another record. No, I should say another record. It's another record, yes, but it's the record, the highest amount of murders ever, 2024, and the year ain't finished yet.
And you believe that. And you know, this morning they shoot a man in the Range Rover and they shoot a next man sleeping.
I'm showing you that. The year ain't finished yet. What is this? And you don't understand out there, whether you're a PNM sycophant, whether you're an apologist, whether you are a minister, whether you are a board member, whether you are chairman, you don't know that you have to get to hell off of this train that, of course, is inevitable, not crashing into a stone wall, you know, but into a steel wall, no return.
To me, I feel this country don't fall off the precipice already. And we are hit bottom ocean as that we hitting rocks going on.
That's right. And turning and twisting and tossing as our demise becomes, of course, even more conspicuous, glaring, and transparent. Yeah. Hi, my friend.
Well, I just hoping 2025, yes, right?
Yes. Well, hoping 2025 comes quick because election is due. That's all. Election is the important thing here.
Yeah. Something I don't know why, but I ain't playing no fortune teller. But something telling me after carnival when you feel everybody fit and wine and drink and something telling me he might say, well, that boy the party. So,
that is why we are here tonight to let him know that just as him waiting for, of course, a salubrious and of course a simmering down of the multiple and monolithic animosity against him and his government, we must ourselves not relent for one moment to make them believe that they have some kind of respite. No, there should be no respite. None whatsoever. No sabbatal. Is until that night.
No retreat.
Only when that day comes and people dip and the results come, then we will breathe a sigh of relief, and the knees of the necks of the people, lest they be totally asphyxiated. Yeah.
But I feel sometimes I listen to Mr. Amara next in the morning thing, and sometimes I something telling me I believe a lot of the PNM people who they vote, they will stay away. Normally they won't change the vote, but I think they will stay away.
But yeah, and there are mechanisms afoot to ensure that those things occur. I say no more. Go ahead, my friend.
All right.
Okay then. Bye-bye. Yes, indeed. But let's finish with Gary Abu as he continues, of course, in his fantasy.
As 2 weeks is enough grounds that nobody should vote for the UNC. Let's shut them down because they are spreading hate and division, attacking national development. Who is going to develop the national economy without capital? People who can't run a business can't run a business. I'm not saying that we should create a green carpet for business people to run away with billions. But there has to be a level playing field where we all have a part to play. Extra foods came from nowhere. Pennywise came from nowhere. So what? I must hate Pennywise because he's brilliant? Because he has a team that held together and built his company and gave the consumers something that made them loyal to him? Come on, we're not going down like Chavez. We're not expelling 20,000 businesses, Kamala. With great respect to you, Cam.
No, again with his fantasy, but you see built into it is the racial connotation, blatant and conspicuous. Because those two businesses that he spoke of are Indian-based. The entrepreneurs, Indian-based, you know. So he identified them. He and Philip Alexander have their beef. But he wants to, of course, bring down, as I say, with this square peg and round hole illogic, arsehole talk, that somehow he have the power, he have the command of the people. We listen to you. We listen to you because you appear to be neutral and you are addressing, of course, a concern that the population is concerned about, whether it be the interests of the fishermen, or of course environmental concerns, oil spills, etc. But when you go there, then that metamorphosis, that a change into some other creature, and in this case, political one, claiming that you have some kind of reach and influence. We have to make you understand what the reality is. You are boo. You are boo-boo.
You are leading your people astray, and I must encourage you to re-examine what your strategy is. If it is a strategy of promoting hate, then it's time we shut down the UNC. Completely shut it down. Get rid of all of them, because they're not worthy of the flag of Trinidad and Tobago.
Who is we? Who is we, boy?
The UNC has gone down a road where its main spokesperson is spreading hate and wants to expel and close down all of the 1%. Now, this person never made any success of any business whatsoever. And with great respect to Kamala, I'm wondering, why would she want the UNC to hate and expel businesses? So Extra Foods should be shut down, Starlight Drugs, Starbucks, Venco, Mario's, Passad's the Food King. There's plenty people who are millionaires in Trinidad. And we have a place here, and we have a contribution to make. Now, if Kamala wants to divide the Africans and the Indians and spread hate amongst them and divide them even further than the demons that already have, then maybe she should be part of the labas and the dustbin and a cesspit. But don't take all the good people in the UNC and drag them down a road where they want to hate each other. Successful businesses have a contribution to make. We are citizens, we are patriots,
I really do something to this thing. It's getting very troublesome now. All right, I'm here. You want to say something?
We are hearing nothing on the outside.
All right, okay. I'm talking now. I'm sure you're hearing me now.
No.
No, just wait a while. It will come. But I'm seeing it functioning.
Uh-huh.
Right. So, yeah, it will take some time before it reaches you.
You now come back.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Right. Yes. All right. So thanks very much. Of course. Oh yeah. Go ahead, my friend.
Now, a fool doesn't know he's a fool unless you make them to understand he's a fool. If Rowley vomit and tell that man that is Seymour, he will drink it. Thank you.
Yeah. He looked for that. That is a man I once respected, just as how I once respected Vento. I once respected, of course, Helen Drayton. I once respected Father Harvey. I once respected, of course, Coco as a Calypsonian. I once respected Roger as a trade unionist, heading the most powerful at one time trade union in the country. And to betray us in this way and to abuse the goodwill that the people would have reposed in them. I say to all of them, hold the tail, including Gary Aboud, including him.
That. And we have a place here and we have a contribution to make. Now, if Kamala wants to divide the Africans and the Indians and spread hate amongst them and divide them even further than the demons that already have.
And I want to say, just in case you missed it and I went silent, that it is impossible. It is a misrepresentation. It is a lie. It is a deception. It is, of course, a figment of Gary Aboud's imagination. Because Kamala's Prasad Bissasa's public position has always been, particularly at the end of every public statement, she would say that, listen, you may have, of course, other leaders that went before her and may come after her, but none you will have that loves you as she has. And she has always made it very, very clear. Every creed and race has an equal place in the UNC. And for this man to spew that level of hogwash, that level of deception, that level of misinformation, disinformation is stereotypical of the PNM, and therefore it's a new addendum, as of course was Vento, the justice who of course resigned from the Integrity Commission in order of course to protect Rowley and to say that those emails were valid, and somehow you must look at the contents and not of course the fact that they could not have been emailed and it was an impossibility. No, he is telling you that utilizing of course his influence as a former judge in order to bullshit us. Same thing with Gary. Bullshit us. The same thing, of course, then Father Harvey. The same thing, of course, Coco and they. But afterwards, Coco say, "Only forget me." And when he got back and he called the rest of us like bottom African. When I asked him on a radio program, has he now considered himself a like bottom African? Well, he couldn't resist it because, of course, he was driving a vehicle for CPEP. He said, yes, he's a like, bottom African. Ask him. Ask Coco. We must confront these iniquities with a level of potency that they never expected, because they believe that the control of the media and of course getting information out to you would have always been through traditional media that is controlled by those persons who wanted to do us harm and want of course to dominate and of course then of course enslave us in the way that Rowley and the PNM has attempted to do over the last 9 years. And thank God they have a part of one more year where they will be jettisoned from government in this country. A pleasant good night. Professor, good night. What's happening there? Professor, good night. Professor, good night. Professor, good night. Going once. All right, we have lost that one. Yes, indeed. Let us not waste time. Let us continue.
Then
Professor, good night. Welcome. Professor, good night. Welcome. All right, we seem to have lost. All right, let's go to conclusion because it's already 14 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock. Let's just conclude it.
maybe she should be part of the labas and the dustbin and a suspect. But don't take all the good people in the UNC and drag them down a road where they want to hate each other.
Imagine that. He believes he has the authority to say all the good people in the UNC to drag them down. So he acknowledged they are good people, but Kamala is attempting to drag them down a road. What do you say? Where's that road?
Successful businesses have a contribution to make. We are citizens, we are patriots. I have no shame in my success. I have worked.
I want to tell you this, and I have personal, you see, experience is the best teacher. I have personal experience down at Westmoreland, where the head of the Chamber of Commerce office exists. And I had a discussion that I will share with you, of course, tomorrow, with one of the Abuds, I believe it is, the man with the Justice on Time contract. I will tell you tomorrow. I want to conclude by saying their mortal fear. Their mortal fear. Notice he has not mentioned any African business. He didn't even mention Warner, who Rowley trying his best to have him, of course, come up to scratch. He didn't mention more Warner. Not one African business he mentions. All of them, of course, are Indian businesses. Why? Because they are in competition with them. They want, of course, to dominate the commercial and private economic sector in this country. And so, he knows when they get into office, that possibility exists. But the Indians have always demonstrated, whether business or not, whether in government or not, that their focus has always been to pull up, to lend a helping hand to the African community. A pleasant good night. All right, so we have lost that again. So people, what I'll do, I will end here. I'll leave the rest for tomorrow night. I think you have gotten a lot. We have had some disruptions, but nonetheless, I think the message essentially has been, of course, addressed where I wanted to go, and where, of course, we can say without fear of contradiction that Gary Aboud conclusion has been talking nonsense, total nonsense. So people, of course, have a wonderful rest of the night, this Christmas night. I trust that you will not overdo. I will not either. And of course, don't forget that tomorrow night we are on again. I'm not certain about the ground report tomorrow, but certainly I know about the corridor transformation. But of course, we're going to continue with this and others as we, of course, extrapolate and we, of course, realistically analyze statements are being made by those who believe they can sway public opinion conveniently so as to avoid the ultimate victory of the UNC and therefore Kamala Persad-Bissessar becoming Prime Minister of this country in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago. Have a wonderful rest of the Christmas night. God bless. Bye-bye.
done. All three in one, a truly blessed son. He displayed his own skill and father.
DJ Tough Gang.
It was early Christmas morning, I was lying in my bed. When I hear her calling, it was neighbor Mildred. She come over early, said time to have the fete. Please don't.
I am the corporate secretary of Fishermen and Friends of the Sea. I also own a private company which I built from scratch. 30 years ago we started, and today it's a prominent contributor in many areas of national development. I'm not blowing any horns, but we all have a place here. Now, the UNC has gone down a road where its main spokesperson is spreading hate and wants to expel and close down all of the 1%. Now, this person never made any success of any business whatsoever. And with great respect to Kamala, I'm wondering why would she want the UNC to hate and expel businesses? So Extra Foods should be shut down,